I'm Nathan Byrd, and welcome to this episode of the Byrd Academy, Part 1 of Watkins Glen. This weekend, we're at Watkins Glen International Raceway. We're here running the TLM USA Racing Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, as well as the Arrive Drive Motorsports Pro Mazda. The Porsche is much heavier than the Pro Mazda. It doesn't have any real downforce effects in the way that the Pro Mazda does. It has a rear wing, but that's about it. It has about 450 to 500 horsepower. Pro Mazda has less horsepower, around 250 or so. It's way lighter though, which means it can brake more effectively and it can corner better because of the downforce and the fact that it's a lighter car. So on Thursday, we were able to go out in both the Porsche and the Pro Mazda. In the Porsche, I'm sharing the car with the team owner and my co-driver, David Tuati. David Tuati, my co-driver in the Porsche, the main entrant, team owner, co-driver. He's going to be taking the car off the qualifying 2. He was able to set us up to start the race in both race 1 and the Enduro in 7th place. Later on in that day, I ran the Pro Mazda in my first practice session of the weekend, and the car ended up dying on lap 5.
The car died. Makes me wonder if we ran out of fuel.
Exiting the bus stop, I tried getting on power, and there was just nothing. The throttle had no connection to the engine, essentially. After we were struggling to figure out, hey, is it the fuel pump system? Is it something else? There was talks of potentially scrapping the Pro Mazda for the entire weekend and bringing the F1000 car out, which would have been an 18-hour round trip from Indy, where the shop is.
If I went halfway, it would be 9 hours for each of us, or he comes all the way here, he would just stay here for the weekend and help us, and then we'd all go home Sunday. But the meeting halfway, I felt that was my thought. Can't do that because he's bringing the trailer.
So that wouldn't have been ideal, but Liam was able to come in, save the day, and diagnose the issue. It turned out to be also a grounding issue with the wire that was touching something else, and that was cutting electrical power to the fuel pump system.
It just wasn't connected at all. So.
6 minutes left in the session.
Yeah, you want to get out there? Yeah, man. So, right. Sorry it took so long. Wish we could have gotten out there, but.
I'm going to snatch souls in the F1000 car. I'm going to snatch souls. And this time it won't be because I'm just out-braking everyone and not cornering everyone. It's going to be because I'm out-driving them with a theoretically lower-performing car.
Come Friday, we had the first session of the day in the Pro Mazda. That was going to be practice 2, and that session ended up being my first actual dry session of the entire weekend so far. So we're able to get some laps and experience scuffing in the new tires for the Pro Mazda, setting ourselves up for qualifying. We can get more front grip. You're just probably gonna have to come from aero, but if we can get more front grip, I don't think that'll I think it'll be more neutral on the exit, and I think that's probably the fastest way to drive the car. That set me up nicely going into race 1 in the Porsche, where I was starting 7th. I'm going to just burn as fast as possible and get up to speed as fast as possible. So that's the goal. It's gonna be fun. I already know it, and I'm excited. I actually asked my old Lucas Oil Formula Car Series head instructor Gerardo Bonilla, how many laps do you think it's going to take me to get up to speed in the Porsche? And he said, with your skill set, probably 4 to 5 laps. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll find out.
Usually when we see drivers his age, they come in out of many years of karting and are immediately fast. Nathan was a little different. He had a little bit more challenge to overcome. He wasn't quite as fast as the other kids his age, but he wanted to compete with them, and so he had some catch-up work to do. But in a racing school series, he was able to push that development forward really quickly, because when you're in competition, you work a lot harder at finding opportunities. So it was nice to meet him when he was still very new, and now he's much faster.
So I start the race, immediately drop back to 9th by the start-finish line, and it ended up coming out of turn 1 in 5th place. And then over the course of the next 2 laps, I was able to pass 2 different cars for position, and now I'm 3rd place overall, but P2 in class, because I'm still trying to track down the guy who's leading my class, the 4.0 improved class, Mark Mathis, and around the lap 5 mark, the overall leader ended up spinning out on the exit of turn 9 right in front of me, which was kind of crazy. I was like, okay, well, I'll take that freebie. The craziest parts of the race was actually the last 2 laps, where I was finally catching up to Mark, and there was actually a car that he was trying to get past, set up the perfect pick for me. That car forced Mark to get on the brakes in the middle of the S's, which meant I could just go full sail right past him, and then I was able to secure the pass for the overall lead and the in-class lead. Then I just focused on finishing out that lap. Boom, I take the white flag indicating the last lap of the race, and I go through the S's, and I see 2 cars battling for position in front of me. I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay full throttle and see what happens. And then they ended up just parting ways like the Red Sea, and I was able to go straight through the middle. And then I ended up finishing out that lap. I don't think I really passed that many more cars, but I was able to take the checkered flag in the overall lead and the in-class lead to get my first sports car win in a Porsche.
My first win in a touring car, sports car. So it felt good to do it with TLM and with the Lobster Mac, orange and blue.
It was pretty amazing getting my first ever sports car win in the Porsche in race 1. Celebrated with the team a little bit, got on the podium, it was great. But after that, it was time for me to relinquish the steering wheel while I focused on running qualifying, my first qualifying session in the Pro Mazda. Under series and a little loose on entry, mid-corner, under trail brake, or just, so I'm gonna have to not really trail brake it as much, and if we can get some more front grip on exit, then that qualifying session went way better than I expected it to. I ended up going 6 seconds faster in that qualifying session compared to my first practice session, which was surprising. Probably would have been like maybe 7 seconds faster if I didn't get held up on what would have been my fast lap, but still made improvements. I know I'm closer to where the theoretical limit of the car should be, so it'll be better. After qualifying, I went over to TLM Racing to talk to David Tawadi about how he felt in race 2, what we could maybe improve, because I was going to be running the Enduro the next day. And while I was gone, Liam and Dustin were working on chopping off the exhaust system of the car to make it louder. I don't think there's any real performance benefit from that, but it made the car sound way cooler. And they were also working on brainstorming ideas on how we can improve the performance of the car. In the end, Friday was a great day of racing. It was crazy, but it was good. But there was a lot of goods to take away. Porsche was great, but the Pro Mazda, we were still struggling, and just debriefing with them that night, I just handed the car over to them to make the changes that they saw fit, and sort of just pray that in the morning the car would be significantly better heading into my first races with the Pro Mazda. Thank you for watching this episode of the Byrd Academy. Be sure to follow along on our social medias, Byrd Racing and Speed Sport, so you can catch part 2 of Watkins Glen.